Thank you for joining us for this episode. Today, we're talking with Dr. Keelan Morrison from Scottsdale, Arizona, on developing a cash pay business model and starting a business during COVID on the Optometric Insights show. Well, thank you again for joining us for this episode of the Optometric Insights show. We are so excited to have Dr. Morrison with us today from Scottsdale, Arizona. Thank you for joining us. It's great to have you.
All right. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so honored to be on the podcast, and this is really exciting.
Yes. So would you tell us a little bit about yourself? I mean, we heard a little bit in the bio earlier, but tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into optometry school, your journey with SUNY and your journey to get to Scottsdale, Arizona.
Yeah. So I always wanted to be an optometrist ever since I was in middle school when I had a lot of problems with my contacts. And so it kind of pushed me to be involved in the pre-optometry club in college, ended up being president my final year, didn't really do much there. I wasn't the best president, but it was really fun, and applied to optometry school, went to NECO, which was awesome. Did my cornea and contact lens residency at SUNY in New York City. And then after that, went to New York Eye and Ear, worked there in the cornea department for about 3 years, doing and seeing all sorts of really interesting, wacky corneas, perforations, and surgical corneas, and kind of really learning the ins and outs. And my husband and I were, working out there, having a lot of fun in New York, but we decided that we wanted to start a family, and so we moved home to Scottsdale, where my family is. My family's in Tempe, so moved back to Arizona. And we, the way that I got kind of into private practice here, and owning a private practice so quickly after I moved out, which was I pretty much started my practice immediately in a city that I wasn't set up in at all, was that my husband had started a company that did mobile eye care. We had it functioning in DC. And then we were bringing it out to Arizona. So we said, how about I get a job and then you do your business, and then we kind of support each other. And then I wanted to start my own practice eventually. So I said, at some point when your business is up and running, why don't we switch, and then I can start my practice, and then you can kind of coast on what you've already set up. And so I was looking for a job. I contacted basically every ophthalmology practice in Arizona. And I only say ophthalmology because it was what I was used to working in. I was used to working in cornea. I figured I would go into cornea. That way I could do my specialty lenses. And long story short is that basically none of the big ophthalmology practices were hiring for anybody who did specialty contact lenses. And I knew that if I wanted to start a practice down the line, being involved in another optometric practice would maybe be something like of a non-compete, where I couldn't leave and do my own thing because, they would want to have that there, of course. So I decided, let's just do it. Let's open up a practice and let's just start really small and just see if I can do what I want to do. And then if it doesn't work, I can always go back to working for somebody else. But if it works, then great. And I've just accomplished my goals a little bit earlier than I had expected.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And you picked one of the best economical years and one of the most impressive years to do that. You started your practice, I believe, it was around December 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how was your first year?
It was very interesting. It was actually a really good year. I had my first patient ever in my new office on February 20th of 2020. So you can kind of understand that a month later, I shut down for about a month or so. And yeah, COVID year was very interesting, but I think because I had just started the practice, I was still building my patient base. So it was kind of maybe similar to what it would have been non-COVID. And thankfully, I mean, I'm really blessed. Everything turned out really well. I made a profit the first year, which I think was, something that I didn't expect to do. And,
Wow.
Things have just been continuing to get better and better, especially now that people feel more comfortable coming out and doing things again. And So yeah, it
Yeah.
was a very weird year as you know, as a business owner to run a business, and potentially we could have had some more growth if we hadn't have had the pandemic, but we did. And I just tried to navigate it as much as possible, kept
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
overhead really lean.
Yes. Very optimistic. That was a great way of thinking. So your practice is a little bit unique, right? Many people that are out there who are listening to this are in a primary care practice, but that's not what you did. You started off and said, "Hey, we're going to really align in specialty contact lenses." When did you make that decision that you wanted to go into practice and have a specialty contact lens practice?
Yeah, so that was basically my plan since I was in high school. So it's been a long time coming. As I said, I had a lot of problems with my eyes. And so the only lenses that I can wear successfully are sclerals. And they are the sclerals with the toric peripheral curves. I couldn't wear mini sclerals. I tried a ton of different things. So it's been a long road for me and my eyes. And what I really noticed over the years was I really had to have a doctor who was willing to sit there and work with me for a long time, because I tried everything. I tried ortho K, I tried softs, RGPs, mini sclerals, like literally everything you could think of. I've tried it and it didn't work for me until these lenses. And that's what I wanted to bring to the table. I wanted to be a place where people with really severe problems could come and say, I've tried all of these different things before. What can I do now? It's not working. What are some alternative options for me? And I really wanted to be able to give them that time. So I spend an hour with each of my patients. And even the follow-ups are an hour follow-up. And that's kind of how I schedule people. And that's what I wanted to do with my practice. And so I was saying, how can I do this successfully? And originally when I had opened the practice, I did take some regular, like comprehensive patients, but honestly, they were few and far between. I was getting a lot more referrals for specialty-based services anyways. And so it kind of just naturally lended itself to, I don't see many normal, like comprehensive patients at all. I would say about 95% just specialty. But that's like why I went into it right away, because I said, if I'm able to have a successful practice with just specialty patients, that's what I want to do. I want the difficult ones. I want the people who are coming from neuro, who are having like lots of light sensitivity, those types of patients. And if I wasn't successful in this, it's okay. I can always pivot. And I can pivot and I can make my practice have more comprehensive patients. So I just tried
Hmm.
it. Yeah. And it ended up working out.
So I think that's really ambitious. Tell us a little bit about your the nuts and bolts of how you came upon your business model, right? An hour with each patient. How are you figuring out these fees that you're charging patients? Is there, a book that we didn't read in optometry school that talks about how to do this? How did you come up with this model, particularly so you could create a profit in your first year? That's pretty impressive. And could
Um,
you share your business model? Obviously, not the dollars and cents, but the business model of how you do things.
yeah, absolutely. I want to make it known to everyone that like this is possible. It's possible to do whatever business model you set out to do. That is like, if it feels right to you in your gut, you can do it. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't. My business model is very similar to my friend Stephanie Wu's. We started our practice at the same time. It's cash only. We don't take any insurances. And that's kind of how I'm able to keep my overhead costs really low, because I don't have to hire a lot of people to run the insurance company or run things through insurance for me. I don't have to have a large staff. Um, I have two people working for me now. One's part time and then one's kind of a remote person who answers my phones Monday through Friday. Um, and she just works from home because of COVID. I would love if she could come in. And that's that's the way that I allowed myself to say, okay, if I price things at this rate, this is and had this amount of overhead, this is what I could do. I kept my business or my practice size really small. So I'm in a really nice medical office building, but my rent is not expensive at all. Again, I don't have a large staff. I bought really nice pieces of equipment. but other things I don't have. So I don't have an autorefractor. That was a way to save some money for me. But because I was at my cornea practice in New York, we just read it. We read everyone. I didn't use an autorefractor for, 3+ years. So I've never used it. And so I just read everyone, and that works for me and saved me a little bit of money. So kind of just doing it where I could. In terms of the fees, I talked with a lot of my friends who were doing similar types of businesses as me, Ed Boschnick, Stephanie Wu, and kind of just talked with them about like, what does your business model look like? And mostly everyone that I've talked to is kind of on the same page where, the chargings or the pricing is somewhat similar. Would say mine is a little bit lower just because I just did whatever felt good to me. If I felt like it was a really good price for the patient, that's what I charged. If I felt like it was a good price for me that valued and honored my time, that's what I put down as my charges, or as my pricing. So I wanted to keep it really fair for me and really fair for the patient, and, just valuing both their time and my time, knowing that I do spend a lot of time with them. So that's pretty much what I did. There wasn't any book, and yeah, it is really hard to figure out what you're going to do. But, if anyone has an idea for a business that, say, like, you want to do a specific type of glasses, or say you want to do like VT or a specialty with children, like there's a space for you. It's not oversaturated. You can do it. You don't have to do the same business model as everybody else. Like, you can do whatever you want to do as long as you believe in yourself and run the numbers and make sure that things make sense for you. And again, my number one advice would be, like, if you're trying to do something different, just keep your overhead costs low. And then that way you can just try it out, and you can always change your mind.
Mm-hmm. So how did you start getting patients, right? You moved to Scottsdale, or you moved to Arizona, and you opened this practice in Scottsdale, and you had to hustle because you said you started getting patients right away. How did you market yourself to get patients? Because you seemingly didn't know all the optometrists and ophthalmologists in the area. How did you get known?
Yeah, I actually knew nobody that worked in the area. I went in knowing of one cornea specialist because he went to school with a fellow that I was working with in New York. So we texted each other when I moved out there and met up. But basically, I typed up a letter, and I sent this letter out introducing myself to everybody that I could think of and everyone that I could research online, just saying what I did, what my credentials were, what my practice was going to be like. And then I, went out and visited with people, and had some meetings, talked with them on the phone. I always I wanted to have a referral network too for my patients, because I'm not going to be treating glaucoma. I'm not going to be doing those types of things. So I wanted to say, like, who's good in the area for me to send my patients to, for cataract surgery, for glaucoma. And so that way I developed these relationships with different practitioners, and got to know them. And thankfully I had like a couple of ophthalmologists were extremely supportive of me and my vision and my practice right off the bat. And those people have been like instrumental in helping me start my practice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about your use of social media to educate patients, both yours and mine. Tell us a little bit about how that all came about, and how do you use it for attracting your own patients? Has it been beneficial for your practice yet?
Oh, definitely. And I don't think that was what I intended to do when I started it. I started in 2017, when I was working at New York Eye and Ear, just as like something fun to do. And I posted about just things that I was interested in. I posted about a prosthetic lens that I created for a patient with a keratoprosthetic eye, a keratoprosthesis, and posted about like, this is dry eyes, this is macular degeneration, and making it easy for people to understand who weren't in the optometric profession. And I always tried to provide a little value with each of my posts. So could someone take something away from this and either, if you're a doctor, like find it interesting, or if you're a patient, find it helpful and useful. And it just kind of grew a little, it grew over the years. And when I started my own practice, I've attracted a lot of patients via my Instagram, which is still really crazy for me to to think about, but people will come to me saying, oh, I saw you on Instagram, and that's like how I learned about you and your practice. And I don't know, it's really cool. But my main thing is
That is
just like,
cool.
I want to provide like some value to people who are watching me. It's not, I don't usually go on there and try to like sell something or like have patients book or like anything like that. It's just kind of like, what do I find interesting in the moment? And what does like my daily life look like? And then hopefully people will see that and say, oh, okay, like this is, what she's doing. Maybe there's an option for me in terms of my eyes that I haven't tried
Hmm.
before.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it kind of cool that you start this social media thing and then people start coming in the door to see you? So, what would you recommend to other people in order to help them figure out how to use social media to attract patients to find them?
Definitely. Yeah. So there's obviously some social media strategy that people who are good with it will tell you. I just recently hired somebody to help me out at my office, and she's like amazing with social media. However, I just hired her, so I haven't been doing anything prior
Hmm.
to that. I would say my biggest thing is post about things that you find really interesting, that like a case that was super cool. Um, Anything that's really interesting instead of just saying like, do a post for Veterans Day or do a post for XYZ where you're just saying, Happy Veterans Day. You can do that stuff, but also
I
post
was going to
about
say,
like,
what do you have against
I
veterans?
know, I
No,
love
just
veterans. I love the vets. Thank you for your service. Yes, no, have to honor the vets. But instead of doing kind of like things that everybody else is doing, just like pick things
yes.
that you find interesting and then post about that. And kind of like you can do it intuitively. You don't have to be on a schedule if you don't want to. I'm certainly not, although I'm sure if I was, I would do much better. But I just kind of think it like flows naturally. If I find something that's interesting and I want to post it, I post it. If I don't feel like posting, I don't post anything.
Yeah.
So do what feels
Yeah.
natural and nice to you.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, I don't want to take too much of your time. I sure appreciate you joining us. This has been really cool. I think there's some really good tidbits in here about kind of developing a business model and, establishing a cash pay practice is something that is possible. I think we can look to you as somebody who's already crushing it in that area. The fact that you started a business during COVID and you still are doing well, very cool. Thank you for your perspectives on social media and the fact that actually doing it is something that can benefit your practice. I know that in maybe in our millennial optometrists, they can kind of see that, but yet, so for several people who are just utilizing their social media for their own personal use, they're not really transitioning that over into their practice. So I think we can look to you for that. So thank you so much. Is there some place that people can follow you and learn more about you? You spend time outside of your practice educating optometrists. I've seen you on Wu University and other places lecturing. Where are some other places that people can find out more about you or hear about your lecturing and so forth?
Yeah, so you can follow me on it's at Eyesplain, EYESPLAIN on Instagram. If you want to follow kind of what I'm doing, and I always post if I'm going to be giving a lecture on that platform. And then my practice is youreyes.infocus.com, and it's in focus specialty contact lens and vision solutions. So I just took a phone call with a gal the other day from California who owns her own practice and is really crushing it. And she just wanted to kind of talk through some things. So yeah, I'm always here to kind of like talk with people about their businesses, their vision, their patients, and swap ideas. I got some really interesting ideas from her too. So always
Yeah.
here to share knowledge and hopefully help some people out.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Morrison. It's a pleasure to have gotten to speak with you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for this episode of the OI Show. Make sure to subscribe and please leave us a 5-star review so that we can get other people interested in hearing about our content. Have a great day, and we'll talk next time.
Thank you so much.